when it's going across country. It's the end driven from above the front sprocket, the engine, the back is a Maybach V12, a much more powerful one than is a Panzer III, the same basic unit, driving through an 8-speed 3-cylinder gearbox at the front and then drive sprocket at the outer end of the back of them. Has very wide tracks. Because it's so wide and so heavy, when they moved the Tiger by rail, they had to take the tracks off, take the outer set of road wheels off each side and put narrow narrow travelling tracks on, so they could climb on a train without wiping out all the line side bits and pieces. So if you ever see a Tiger with the narrower tracks, you'll know why it is. The gun is an 88mm, it's a very high velocity weapon, and is very similar to the 88mm Flak gun. It's absolutely devastating. Although the Germans only built about 1,300 of them in Norway, you can see why most Allied crews were very nervous of them, and rightly so. There are instances of British and American tanks taking out Tigers. In fact, we had a chap who used to come here regularly, who in a Sherman Firefly knocked out 3 Tigers. So that would be the extent. Fighter shot, it's got a power operating turret, requires a crew of 5, but 3 men in the turret, 2 in the hull, 1 the driver in the hull, and his right would be a man operating the hull, machine gun and operating the radio. Just watching that suspension, like something, you can see how it turns up the mud, and the suspension reacts to bumpy ground.
So much.
Now he's changed up just to give it a bit more power. It's going to come right round in front of us here now, which is quite something to see. In fact, it makes such a nice noise. I'll let you have a listen to it without me waffling on for a while.
If you're in a like a Sherman, there's a Tommy cooker, and you go in, you think you're okay, you go into a village of those, and that thing comes out, comes through a building or something, you know. Yeah, you would be a little bit. We had the Piaf gun, didn't we? They're the Panzerkampfwagen things, but we wouldn't touch them like that, it would bounce off the side. In open warfare, they had enough, the big battles against the Russian tanks, they had enough of those.
One thing I want to say, although we went to vast expense to restore the Tiger to running order, and I mean vast expense because it's more fortune, it's still using the same engine and gearbox that the original Tiger used, although we did actually have to modify the engine for it. But it's basically as it would have been in 1943. That particular Tiger was captured by the British in Tunisia in 1943 and actually with some Churchill tanks of 48 Royal tankers. They got in a lucky shot, ricocheted off the gun barrel, which you can still see the scratches from, and penetrated the top of the hull.
Really ones of virtually original condition. Like the earlier tanks, it's powered by a Maybach V12 petrol engine, driving to an 8-speed 3-selector gearbox at the front. The suspension is still torsion bar, but rather than individual wheels, you find they've got interleaved and overlapping wheels. The reason being they had a lot of weight. This tank weighed about 56 tons, with 100 millimeters of frontal armour, and you needed that extra rubber in contact with the track to spread the weight comfortably as it was going on. Another thing with the Tiger was that it was so wide it wouldn't fit onto an ordinary railway wagon. So if you wanted to move that tank by rail, and it was really the only way of moving the tank from A to B, you had to take off the outer set of wheels, take off the tin plate that runs down the sides, and put on narrower tracks or travelling tracks, because it wouldn't go on the train with its ordinary tracks on, and that was a right chore to do at the end of every day. You had to take it off the train, put the wider tracks and the wheels back on before it could go into battle. It's armed with an 88mm gun, which is a derivative of the anti-aircraft gun that was so famous in the German army as their anti-tank weapon. And you can understand, I think, if you look at the Tiger, why so many Allied tank crews were nervous of it. Well, they had need to be, because that was a powerful tank and the gun was supremely accurate, and it could take out any tank that we had at ranges that we simply couldn't reply to. So you had to get suicidally close to a Tiger to even scratch the paint on it, and you usually got clobbered before then. Otherwise, the Tiger was... The only odd thing about them, despite their immense power, was that the Germans only built about 1,300 of them. So what you're seeing is a rare sight in it. It's getting a bit of a big how it can do it. All relative construction again, same 5-pound driver, 100 machine gun radio, 3 men in the turret, commander, the gunner, and the loader, all required to keep the turret tank in action. You have to be very careful with the Tiger. The Tiger is a bit sensitive in its transmission, and Tiger commanders were forbidden to tow another Tiger tank in trouble out of trouble. If you did that, you were liable to wreck the gearbox on your own tank. There's a famous incident in Italy when they tried this and lost so many tanks.